Hello everyone and welcome to another game I played on PTCGO. For this match I'm going to be using an updated version of the Aegislash deck. If you guys remember, that sort of archetype has the ability King's Shield, or the attack King's Shield, sorry, and it prevents all damage done to Aegislash on the next turn. Huge downside, and there's a huge one, is the attack cost of 5 energy and the fact that Aegislash only does 50 damage. So I chose to pair it up here with Bronzong and Bronzor here, 2-2 line of that, to get energy acceleration going on. So I'm going to start off having to discard a lot of good things with that Juniper, unfortunately. But I did manage to get 2 Honedge on the bench and a Bronzor in the active spot. I'm going to retreat the Bronzor. I did attach a Floatstone and put a Honedge into the active. My opponent has Yveltal EX in the active. He's going to Juniper and then bench 2 more things, giving him a full bench and quite an interesting array of Pokemon. So I do see Cinccino, and this will be a shiny coat type of deck, as we'll see later. I'm going to attach 2 Honedge, put in a second energy onto that, and evolve into Bronzong. And then I'm actually here going to play Lysander's Trump card. So this will shuffle both players' discard piles back into their deck. I just figured I discarded too many good things on my turn 1, and I want them back now. Going into my opponent's turn, if he gets an energy, he can actually knock me out, and he does just that. So he's going to get a DCE and evolve into Cinccino. So that will be a nuisance later on. And my Honedge goes down. I will promote Bronzong since it does have that Floatstone attached to it. And here I can play an Ultra Ball. I'm going to unfortunately have to discard that Bronzong and a Floatstone. 2 cards again that I didn't really want to see in the discard pile. And I will get here a Cobalion. So I could have gone for the evolution line, but I figured Cobalion will be a decent attacker in this situation. And I get another Honedge and another Bronzor, so not too bad from that Juniper I just played. I will retreat into Cobalion, and here I can just attack with Righteous Edge for 30 and discard my opponent's DCE. So now my opponent is going to play a Startling Megaphone, discarding all of my tools, and that's going to be a bit painful. And then he Evil Balls for 80. So I do want those Floatstones in my hand or in my deck, because Keldeo will allow for rush in with and retreat with the Floatstones, which are really important for this deck once you have an Aegislash out in play. So I did attach another energy onto Honedge, and I get a Steel Shelter off of that Chorus I just played. I will play that down along with a Keldeo, attach a Floatstone onto it, and I guess play the Steel Shelter. That's what I'm doing right now. And then I'll Ultra Ball, getting rid of 2 ends. I don't really need them right now, but they would be useful in slowing my opponent down since he has taken a prize. And I will get a Doublade, so I will get a stage 1 out in play. But it will look like I won't be able to do much damage here, so I can just Righteous Edge for 30, leaving my opponent with just 60 damage. And he will be able to Evil Ball here, unfortunately. But if he goes for Y Cyclone, he can just get the knockout as well. But he does choose the Evil Ball, which I'm a little bit thankful for, leaving the energy on the active and not powering up anything on the bench. I do get a Keldeo off my top deck, which will be useful, so I'll bench that. I'll attach a DCE onto my Honedge. Now that I've benched another, or that I have another, I should start powering it up. And I finally get Aegislash into play. So now I'm going to Metal Links, which is Bronzong's ability, which allows me to attach a Metal Energy onto Aegislash, finally having it fully powered up with 4 energy. And this will allow me to bring it into active and use King's Shield for 50. This means my opponent cannot attack Aegislash on his next turn for any damage. If there's any secondary effects to attacks, then those remain, but It's not like anything on his side of the field can poison, so he won't be able to easily knock out Aegislash. My opponent's going to attach a robe to Cinccino and a rainbow energy. And then he brings out the Lysander, unfortunately, and he's going to bring up Bronzong and knock it out. So the really bad thing about that is that I don't have any more Bronzongs in my deck. So that is a problem if I want to stay competitive or keep myself in this. So now my hand, I'm sort of contemplating what to do. We'll attach another metal energy onto my bench Pokemon here, and then play an N, hopefully slowing my opponent down a bit. From that N, I fortunately do get a rare candy into an Aegislash, which I also got. And here I'm going to play down another Honedge, and just play this Evo Soda from my hand just to burn it. I know there's nothing in my deck to get. And then I will King Shield for 50, and end my turn. So here, Yveltal EX is just 10 short of the knockout, which I'm hoping I will get next turn. My opponent knocks out my stadium by playing Shadow Circle. But the big thing here will be whenever Cinccino comes out, because its ability is really annoying. It will force you to flip a coin whenever you're attacking into it. If heads, your attack does no damage, which is highly unfortunate with a type of deck like mine that doesn't deal that much damage to begin with. So my opponent is going to N after attaching a tool to a benched Eevee, and we do see a manual retreat into Cinccino, so that's quite annoying. I will attach a tool onto my Aegislash, and then evolve once again into Aegislash via rare candy, since I was fortunate enough to get those again. And here I will rush in, since I can't use King Shield in back-to-back turns. I have to actually attack with a different Aegislash or rush in to negate that sort of term in the attack. So here, Smooth Coat ends up being ahead when my attack, so it will do nothing. But fortunately, King Shield's effect still works, so he still can't attack me. So we're in sort of a quasi-deadlock. So my opponent is going to evolve his Eevee into Espeon. He does have another Cinccino on the bench, which he can evolve into Cinccino, along with a Kangaskhan EX and a Dedenne, but I don't see him wanting to attack with either of those if he can avoid it. And then we see an Evo Soda getting nothing. So he doesn't attack, but here I must again rush in and retreat. But first, I realize this game is going to go in for the long haul, and I'm down prizes, so I need to make sure I don't deck myself. So I'm going to use Dowsing Machine to get back Lysander's Trump card to shuffle my discard pile back into my deck. If I don't, I just fear that the coin flips will end up being the end of me, since every tails I get means the game has to go one turn longer at least. And I also shuffle my opponent's discard pile back into his deck. So now I'm going to rush in and retreat so I can attack with Aegislash. And here I'm going to use King Shield, hoping that there's a Tails on Smooth Coat, but unfortunately there isn't. So my opponent ends up being fairly lucky in this game with his coin flips. I'm not a fan of that. And then we see an AZ, or an AZ, being played, which essentially brings Yveltal back into his hand, clearing it of all damage, and he just places it back down on the bench and attaches a dark energy onto it. So again, a little bit frustrating there. I will get an Evo Soda and evolve into Bronzong now that that's back into my deck, thanks to Lysander's Trump card, and then I will Juniper my hand away. So here I have to rush in and retreat in order to be able to attack again. And here I'm just switching off between Aegislashes. I could just hit with the same one theoretically. Then I do have a metal energy that I can attach to my benched Aegislash that has fewer energy. So I will King Shield, hoping for a Tails on Smooth Coat, but unfortunately it's another Heads, which is the third consecutive heads I think my opponent has gotten. And he will play a chorus for 10. So here, it's now basically in a stalemate. So one of us needs to do something to pick out important cards that are not Cinccino or Aegislash. My opponent uses Echoed Voice for 0, indicating that he can't do anything right now. I do get a Steel Shelter, which will allow me to knock out his Stadium, and then I can rush in once again to retreat into Aegislash and try to hit here. So I can attach here a Muscle Band onto Aegislash. I unfortunately attach it to the wrong one. I should have gone for the active. And then I Juniper my hand away. I do get a Battle Compressor off of that, which I'll use just to thin out my deck to get rid of stuff I don't really need. And that will include this Evo Soda, since I don't need that. And another Bronzor. Once I get back to it, I think I will discard that along with an Ultra Ball. And yeah, so just hoping to draw into the stuff I want sooner, not that my deck is helping me all that much here. But that Battle Compressor is really useful when you just want to get Metal Energy into the discard pile, so you can attach with Bronzong from the discard. So I do here get an Escape Rope, which I will use. My opponent just unfortunately switches out one Cinccino for the other. And we finally get a Tills on Smooth Coat. But since I only do 70 damage, it's not even enough to get the knockout. And that's 70 after a Muscle Band. So this sort of matchup is really ridiculous. So my opponent is going to attach to Yveltal and then use an Escape Rope of his own. And I'm going to send up Keldeo, since it can take a hit from anything and not get knocked out. At least from what he's showing on his side of the field. And I'm sort of wondering what he'll send up. He actually sends up Cinccino, which uses Echoed Voice for 50. And here I'm just going to retreat the Keldeo into an Aegislash and use Echoed King Shield. But first I will end my hand away. And I do get a Tool Retriever, since I did mistakenly play the Muscle Band on the wrong Aegislash. I will use it here to retrieve it from that one and put it on the correct one I intended to all along. It's sort of a useful tool now that the sets have evolved to allow your opponent to attach sort of damaging tools on your own Pokemon. It's really cool to have a one of that in your deck. And I'll move that Muscle Band onto the correct Aegislash, attach a DCE onto a different one, and then use King Shield again. But first I'm going to try to Escape Rope to see if I can get him to send out the Cinccino with damage on it, so I can potentially knock it out and finally take a prize. So my opponent has taken 4 thus far and I have taken none. So he does send Cinccino up, and now we'll use King Shield here. And this time we get another heads. So that's, I think, 4 heads and 1 tails. So that's way beyond what should be expected, unfortunately for me. And my opponent uses another Escape Rope. And this time I send up a different Keldeo to take the Echoed Voice from his Cinccino. I will rush in and send up Aegislash once more to use King Shield. And we see another heads. So I'm calling hacks, I think. This is way beyond chance. My opponent is going to bring up Keldeo with Lysander, doing 100 damage this time thanks to Echoed Voice. I will have to retreat it, sending up Aegislash into the active and using King Shield. But unfortunately, once again, we get an heads from Smooth Coat. So now my opponent is going to retreat his Cinccino and use Shadow Ball with Espeon, which allows him to hit the bench, knock me out, and take the win. I hope you guys enjoyed this interesting match, even though I took no prizes.